everyone. My name's Scott Anton. I manage business development with Gideon Taylor, and I would like to welcome you to the second installment of a three webinar series on rethinking digital transformation. Today's topic is unintended consequences of SaaS migrations. For the last couple of years in particular, we've been fielding a lot of questions from our clients and from others about what they can expect from a SaaS migration. And one of the things that we try to impart upon them is making sure that you're asking a whole lot of questions up front and thinking about all of the implications that move can have on your organization and on your team. What happens when obviously the SaaS solution that you're looking at doesn't meet the requirements of your existing system? What happens? What are the best ways to think about filling those gaps? What happens when you just have to say no to certain requirements that users are demanding? And are there ways of mitigating some of that anxiety and pain that they might otherwise encounter moving to a new system that operates differently than what they're used to? So I am very excited today. Actually, before I introduce Paul, I'll let you know a little bit of housekeeping. As questions arise, feel free to pose those in either the chat or the Q&A. We'll be monitoring those throughout the course of the webinar today, and more than happy to take a pause to address those as they come along. Everyone who is registered for the webinar will receive an email with a link to the recorded video that you can go ahead and watch at your leisure and continue to refer to if you ever need to. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Paul Taylor, CEO and founder of Gideon Taylor, and our primary presenter this afternoon. Paul, it's all yours.
Thank you. Good to be here. I'll say that I was chagrined to see as I was getting ready to start here. I was sure that I'd updated the branding on this PowerPoint, and I don't think I have. We have a cool new logo, cool new colors, which you are not seeing here today. I apologize for that. But come back and you'll get to see it. So I've been doing this for quite a while. I'm the original creator of GTE Forms, which is our bolt-on product to automate electronic form workflow and business processes for PeopleSoft, soon coming for cloud native applications. I really love to get rid of business process pain points. That's really fun, and I can't remember the last time anybody beat me in a thumb wrestle. Usually I go ahead and wrestle with my eyes closed, and I win anyway, so watch out. So Gideon Taylor's focus is on giving your enterprise a voice, basically representing your enterprise systems or helping your enterprise systems to represent your organization and its values, its mission, and how you want to present yourself to your constituents, whether that's your employees, your students, your clients, your customers. You want your enterprise systems, as people interact with them, to reflect your organization well. And that's a tough challenge sometimes because enterprise systems don't change as quickly as we want them to. And that can often be the driver for looking to re-platform and to move to a SaaS solution, trying to improve the experience for users. It's a laudable goal, and one that we definitely support. There are other things that you can do to improve the voice of your enterprise systems. That includes the workflow and electronic form technology that we've talked about, using the low-code, no-code tool to add custom functionality and behavior to your enterprise systems. Hosting on OCI can provide a good platform to do that from, using robotic process automation, leaning on organizations that provide managed services like we do, and updating your web look and feel and using conversational AI. All things that we're focused on to try to help organizations present their best face to their constituents. We've been doing this for a long time. I'm here in American Fork, Utah today, and we're excited to be talking with you. So, start with some burning cloud questions that we will at least give some time to here, some attention to. When is the right time to move to the cloud? A question that's been asked many times at many organizations. How should we choose cloud solutions? Because there are many to choose from. How should we choose cloud providers? And what benefits should we expect from a cloud move? We'll address all of these, talk to them, but we're going to start really, and one more bullet. How will our team's jobs and responsibilities change as that happens? All good questions to be asking. I'm sure that those of you who have not moved to a SaaS platform for your enterprise applications have been asking these questions, so we will give them some attention. But first, let's back up and talk about terms. What are we talking about when we say cloud? We've been talking about cloud moves, but cloud can mean a number of different things. So let's just talk a little bit about, and I know this is a review of basics, but I find that sometimes helps us put a good spotlight on a topic to just review how we got here. So SaaS, short for software as a service, is where you're renting someone else's software instance. So that means that the software is running on someone else's servers, and you are renting the opportunity to store your data in someone else's software instance and to let your users use that software instance to manipulate that data and interact with it. So, of course, SaaS has been a kind of a revolutionary paradigm shift across the last decade and a half as we have moved more into this world where software providers want to be providing software as a service. And there are a number of reasons for that, and some of them really are a benefit to the client, and some of them, quite frankly, are more of a benefit to the software provider. Using SaaS, some of the advantages are that it does keep you focused on best practices. It keeps you focused on continuous delivery. You shift out of the model where you decide when to apply PUMs or updates or patches or fixes to your on-prem software. And instead, you're in a realm where those changes are just made to your instances, not your instance. And there are hybrids where you might have some more control over when the changes appear. But in general, you're moving to this continuous delivery model where you're going to see those changes hit your system when they hit your system. And it is a benefit to be nimble as an organization and prepared to uptake new functionality. On-prem systems, one of the big issues that people have is putting off uptaking new functionality. It's easy to let that drop to the bottom of the priority list when there are other fires. This makes it a fire. It's going to happen. The functionality is going to drop in. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are adopting or making strategic best use of new functionality as it comes out. That's still up to you to invest in uptaking new functionality, new features in the most effective way when they do come out. Some of the other benefits are, of course, that the infrastructure management is outsourced. You don't have to have those boxes on site or be in the data center business, and that's a big change. Some of the other impacts are Well, one of the purported benefits for software as a service is that, hey, you're just renting this software, so you can stop anytime. You don't have to be committed. You can decide to just stop and use something else. Think about that functionally as you're going into a relationship with a SaaS provider. Functionally speaking, practically speaking, can you really stop if you push if you push a bunch of terabytes of data into Workday? um, how readily can you actually pull it out, change all your business processes, and get off of Workday? It's not something where you can just decide 30 days before renewal time, well, we're going to keep using this or not. Practically speaking, you are just as locked in as if it was on-prem. So yes, there are advantages. That's not one of them. You're just as much locked in, practically speaking, as you are on-prem. The Another advantage that's often touted about SaaS is that because you're renting rather than buying a license, it's an operating expense rather than a capital expense. And that is true. Because you're running the software, you don't have to, on your books, your organization doesn't have to list that software as an asset and gets to depreciate or gets to deduct rather the full cost, rather than having to depreciate it over time as you do if you're buying a new on-prem license. But bear in mind, if you're moving from on-prem to cloud, that uh, that doesn't really help because you've already bought the on-prem software. The only reason that OpEx versus CapEx comes into play is if you're considering buying another on-prem software. If you're deciding between a new on-prem and a new SaaS, then yes, it's an advantage to the SaaS that you get to treat that as an operating expense rather than a capital. But if you're comparing to staying on your current system as opposed to going to a SaaS system, you've already bought the license for on-prem, so there's no advantage. You've already handled the tax responsibility for that. So sometimes some of the benefits of SaaS are overblown. The biggest benefit, as I said, is to the vendor, and I'll get into that here with another entry. So PaaS, platform as a service. Another abbreviation you see, PaaS is where you build and run solutions using rented tools. So you're still building stuff, but you're building it using services that you access over the cloud and that you just pay for typically on a per transaction basis. PaaS makes a whole lot of sense if you are building your own solutions because you get to access high-end technologies that you don't have to necessarily master yourselves. So, for example, in the Oracle ecosystem, ODA, the Oracle's digital assistant, is a PaaS offering. So is Oracle Integration Cloud. So is Oracle Process Automation. There's a big long list of PaaS offerings. Looking at ODA, we offer a digital assistant, IDA, which is built on top of ODA. We use that PaaS offering. And what that means is we can focus on the stuff that we do best, which is to be able to build configurable enterprise scale digital assistant functionality without having to go back and rebuild the basic tools like Dialogflow. So Dialogflow, natural language processing, we don't have to code that. We can just use it because it comes to us through the ODA PaaS tool. Same deal with OIC, with OPA. You can just leverage some high-end technologies without having to be expert in them you're going to pay for them on a per transaction basis, but it makes a lot more sense than building everything from the ground up. So PaaS is a great strategic play. You do need to be cognizant of what cost you're building in when you're building using PaaS, especially since you don't necessarily know what it's going to cost. Since it's a per transaction basis, the more popular what you build is, the more it's used, the more expensive it will be. And usually that it pays for itself with greater efficiencies, but it needs to be part of the equation as you're making decisions. Okay, IaaS, sometimes pronounced ICE, this is infrastructure as a service. You also talk about that as something being hosted in the cloud or being hosted. This is where you are running your software or running something in someone else's data center. So this is, for example, in the Oracle ecosystem, this is OCI. This is where you say, well, I don't want to have a bunch of boxes in a data center in the basement of one of my buildings. I want to run on someone else's hardware. It can seem like a deprecative thing to say or a dismissive thing to say, hey, you're just running in you're running on a computer in someone else's basement. And technically that's true, and you do need to look at the quality of the cloud provider that you work with. But there are so many advantages that come from using infrastructure as a service. You have scalability in a major way that allows you to easily ramp up and down how many quote unquote boxes you're running on, or how many CPUs are in those boxes, or how much memory or compute power those boxes have. So when you run on-prem and you're running on your own servers, you have to scale those servers to handle your peak need. So if you're, for example, a higher ed institution that is peak usage is during registration for fall semester, that peak time, you have to have enough hardware, you have to have enough boxes, CPUs, memory, etc., for the whole year in order to provide acceptable usage and performance for a week. And when you're using infrastructure as a service, like on OCI, that's not an issue. You can scale up the available resources for your peak times and scale them back down. You can set that to happen automatically during the same day. You can scale up for your peak usage at 10 a.m. or 8 a.m. or whatever, and then scale back down in the afternoon or the evening. You have a whole bunch of control. You are still paying on a usage basis. So the more you use it, the more you pay. But it can be quite predictable, and it makes a whole lot of sense to do. So another flavor, this isn't necessarily one of these abbreviations, not necessarily a cloud offering, but it's one of the factors that comes into play when you are talking about cloud moves. That subscription-based licensing is the fact, again, that you're renting it. And I spoke a little bit to that when we were talking about SaaS, but and what the advantages and disadvantages are. You do have a predictable spend. That is a predictable spend that you can plan on going up every year. And when you're negotiating and talking, you should be asking not only, what's the price this year, but what's the price going to be next year, and how is this going to impact us going forward? Subscription-based licensing is one of these things where it's the biggest benefit is to the vendor. It's one of the big reasons from a cynical perspective why the SaaS wave has swept through the software industry, because subscription-based licensing incentivizes SaaS solutions. It provides, sometimes it's lower revenue for the vendor up front, but it's continuous revenue that renews. And again, since you're practically locked in, it's going to take you a while to get off of an ERP-based, of a SaaS-based ERP solution. Subscription-based licensing, you need to be thinking about how that's going to play out over time. Uh, the managed services is another feature, and it's one of the big points we want to make here. It's easy to say, hey, everyone's going to SaaS. We should do that. You need to be aware as you're doing so that you're changing the nature of your organization. And I'm not saying that because you shouldn't do it, but you need to be thinking about, well, what jobs are your people doing right now, and how are those jobs going to change? When you sign up for a SaaS solution or even a PaaS solution or an IaaS solution, um, you are outsourcing the management of the infrastructure. So if you are using someone else's hardware, you've got hardware people who are going to have less work and may not have a job. It's There are changes that are going to happen, but what I'm saying is plan ahead and think about, okay, it probably makes sense to not have your enterprise be in the data center business. Leave that to someone who does it all the time, but consider what the impact is going to be on the people who run your data center. Similarly with SaaS, you are looking to, who's going to be managing that software instance. In many cases, it's not you. Someone else is applying those patches. They're still going to get applied. It's just not you doing it. You're paying as part of your subscription fee for someone else to upgrade and manage your software instance to a large extent. Think about, again, what that does for your team, but also consider that there are some advantages to being able to outsource, and you can get some economies of scale when you say, okay, well, rather than have a PeopleSoft upgrade specialist assist admin who springs into action when it's time to apply a PUM and then is less busy in between, you can perhaps get those services more cost effectively if a managed service provider is using that sysadmin to support multiple clients. So you're paying for a fractional sysadmin rather than a full sysadmin. Really, you should think about that every cloud solution, all these flavors, come with managed services that are provided by the provider of the cloud service. You can also leverage managed services more creatively and more broadly. It's one of the ways that the software industry is evolving, is by using those technical resources more efficiently. And you can do so even in your on-prem system. We provide managed services for several on-prem customers who have just asked us to take over PeopleSoft development, to say, okay, we're going to focus on a SaaS move, and we want our PeopleSoft experts to become Oracle Fusion Cloud experts or Workday experts. And so we're going to repurpose them. We need someone to backfill their positions, and we do that for some large clients and on a really amazing scale. So you can get some of the benefits of cloud as a concept even before you're on the cloud, and managed services is one of them. Okay, so with that in mind, let's and now that I've talked for a while here, so everybody's has their own journey. Let's talk about a few different cloud journeys, and I'm not looking at the Q&A and comment and chat, Scott. So please shout out if anybody responds here. So here's a quick little quiz about what kind of cloud move we're talking about out of these 5 little switches that we talked about. So Fine Brian's Corporation moves from PeopleSoft HCM and FSCM on-prem to Oracle HCM Cloud and Oracle ERP Cloud. So that kind of a move, which of the cloud switches are they flipping? What cloud flavors are involved? We're going to do this just as a poor man's quiz here. Just put your answers in the chat or in the Q&A Just list them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are multiple right answers on most of these. And Scott, tell me if you have any answers. If nobody is participating, I will just
We do
flip
have
them myself.
we have one vote for SaaS, software as a service.
Okay. Yeah, well, let's see. Is it cloud hosted? Yes. The Oracle's HCM and ERP cloud solutions are running on cloud-based systems. You're not necessarily contracting hosting separately because the cloud hosting is kind of baked in, but it's still happening. Your data is going onto a cloud system. Is it subscription licensed? Yes. And your respondent is correct that yes, this is software as a service because you're going to be renting those software tenancies, those software instances. Are there managed services involved? Yes. This is you're going to have support for those instances that are provided by Oracle. Is it a platform as a service move? There's nothing here that says you have to be using platform as a service. There are definitely extensions you could use. For example, using Oracle Integration Cloud with HCM and ERP Cloud makes a lot of sense. But we haven't said that we're doing it, so that switch is still turned off. Okay, quiz number 2. Fuzzy Fuzz Inc. implements Picasso. If most of you probably know what that is, in their on-premise PeopleSoft HCM system using internal resources. So Picasso is PeopleSoft's delivered chatbot solution. Okay, so give you 12 seconds to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the chat.
We don't have any responses yet. We've got one vote. Oh, we've got a vote for platform as a service and subscription licensing.
Okay, let's see.
We have another one coming in if you want to hold on for just a moment. All but managed services. Oh, that is pushing all the chips on the table almost.
Okay, all right. So all but managed services. So let's see who is right. Cloud hosted? No, we're not necessarily putting any data on the cloud. So Picasso is not we're not actually hosting any of our data on the cloud. It's all still being stored on-prem in this situation. Is there subscription licensing? Yes, because in order to use Picasso, you have to have a subscription license to Oracle Digital Assistant in order to use that. So you are going to be paying a new subscription fee. Is there software as a service? No, you're not actually renting a software instance. You're not moving your data into a software instance that you're then going to log on to in order to access. Are there managed services involved? You could argue this one. You could argue because you will have some support for your platform as a service because ODA is platform as a service. So you have a little bit of support there, but it's for a tool. So it's not quite at the same level that you would have if you're actually moving into a software instance. So we could argue the managed services one, but we're going to give the prize to whoever said subscription licensing and platform as a service. Ding, ding, ding. Well done. Last one. Quiz 3. Incubator Limited works with a third party to move their PeopleSoft systems from their own data center to OCI and keep them current. And we'll just throw in here, we are happy to be that third party if you want to do this, because we do provide those services. So again, you get 12 seconds to give me 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, or what combination we're talking about. Sorry?
You need to actually play the recording of the Jeopardy theme during these.
You don't like me singing it?
Well, it's fantastic.
What's the
We would probably have to
implication you're
license
making
the
here?
theme, wouldn't we? All right,
Uh,
we have a response, a vote for 1, 4, and 5.
okay, cloud hosted managed services platform as a service. Okay, that sounds good. Anyone else? Going once, going twice. Okay, cloud hosted. So we've got to vote for 1, 4, and 5. Cloud hosted is a yes. Yeah, we're moving our PeopleSoft system onto OCI. We're hosting our data in the cloud. So yes. Subscription licensing, yes, because you're going to be paying for your OCI resource usage on an ongoing basis, and you'll have a subscription a subscription license that gives you access to that. Is there software as a service? No. No, we're not moving into someone else's software instance. We're keeping our own. We're keeping PeopleSoft. And so this isn't a SaaS move. We could call it moving PeopleSoft to the cloud. We're just saying we're moving actually the PeopleSoft instance onto a cloud-based infrastructure. Are the managed services involved? Yes, because we have those phrases and keep them current. So since we're keeping them current, then that is a managed service. So this third party, who we hope is getting tailored, is actually applying POMs, applying updates, applying people tools, upgrades, applying patches, so on and so forth, in order to keep current. And is it platform as a service? No, not necessarily. We didn't say anything here that says that we are subscribing to a tool in order to build something new. We certainly could. The fact that we're in OCI now means that we could pretty readily leverage Oracle Integration Cloud, for example, to help connect our PeopleSoft instances and integrate them with other uh, platforms that we're using, including SaaS platforms. But nothing in our project definition said it would be platform as a service. Okay, I hope that that's a helpful run through and thinking about some of the various pieces that are involved in cloud. So let's circle back around. I baited we got you thinking about these answers, and I hope that our short answers aren't glib. These are really good questions. They probably deserve longer answers, but when is the right time to move to the cloud? I'm going to say it's best to move to the cloud when doing so will impose the smallest interruption to innovation. One of the main points that we like to make about SaaS replatforming is that, yep, it probably is in everybody's future who hasn't already done it. It's where the industry is going. It's not the answer to every problem, and it isn't going to provide all the benefits that you can imagine. The reasons to go to SaaS usually are going to have to do with having a more modernized platform that's going to support your innovations going forward. A lot of times, though, there are some anti-innovative reasons to go to cloud. For example, like Scott said initially, in PeopleSoft, one of the biggest problems is that the platform is so darn flexible and extensible that you can never say no to your customer as when they say, "Can you build this?" Because you always can. With a cloud system, with a SaaS system, you can say no. It won't do that. We're renting this software and it doesn't have that capability, so sorry. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't other ways to get around it, but it does give you the ability to say that. I think that one of the most important features that your enterprise software team can have is an ongoing culture of innovation, an idea that you're going to continue to invest in your enterprise systems to make them incrementally and consistently do the work of your organization better, more effectively, more thoroughly, that you're going to ask the computers to do more and more of the drudgery, of the repetition, so that your organization can run at a higher level of effectiveness. Cloud moves can very much get in the way of that. You can say, hey, should we build this new, should we automate this PDF? We're filling it out 1,000 times a week, and we're attaching it to emails and routing those emails around to get signatures, and then we're double typing because somebody filled out the PDF, and then we have to type it into PeopleSoft. Let's automate that. Let's make that an e-form process with built-in workflow. And then we say, well, no, let's not do that because that's investing in our PeopleSoft system. And in 2 years, we're going to be, we're going to start a PeopleSoft, or we're going to start a SaaS move in the next year to 18 months. Okay, well, what you really say when you say that is, okay, we're not going to automate this process this year or the next year. It's going to end up being 2 years before you start a SaaS replatforming. Then let's say that that process still isn't well automated in your new platform. So now you've got 2 years to implement your new SaaS platform, and then a year to absorb all the disruption that's going to cause after that. So you can start thinking about automating that high volume, highly manual process again in 5 years. That's a long time to pause innovation. We should be thinking of ways to keep innovating as you approach a SaaS project, to keep innovating through the SaaS project, and continue to do so after. And we're happy to talk about that. This is, as Scott said, this is chapter 2 of 3. We'll talk about that even more in chapter 3, which is coming up next month. So how should we choose cloud solutions? Again, glib answer, with eyes wide open. Haste makes waste. Think hard about this. You want to get a long way past the vendor demo as you make these choices, because again, don't fall for the idea that if you don't like it, you can just rent something else. That's not true. That your organization can only afford to do this kind of a project once every couple of decades. So you're making choices that the next generation of, that your kids are going to be living with when they're working at your organization. So think hard about this. Choosing cloud providers. Do so. We recommend having a separation of duties between the selection consultant and the implementer. There's a built-in conflict of interest, of course, for your selection consultant if they're also a potential implementer. If you choose a selection consultant whose company has primarily a Workday practice, guess what SaaS platform they're going to recommend, or at least be slanted towards recommending. And again, that might be a little cynical, but it just makes sense. Try to get the most unbiased view that you can from your selection consultant. What benefits should you expect? Well, I'll pass the buck on this one. It depends on what switches you flip and how prepared you are when you flip them. And again, we're going to talk a lot about ways to prepare, but your preparation can make a huge difference in how much disruption the project causes and in the benefits that you get from that move. We already talked about some of the inherent benefits of SaaS moves. But we can get into that again more in chapter 3. How will your team's jobs and responsibilities change? Lots. So make sure that you change intentionally, that you have a repurposing plan where you go through and you decide, well, what are all of our staff doing after this move? And what can we be doing in the meantime? The idea of bringing in an implementer and implementing a SaaS platform and continuing to staff your PeopleSoft project with your PeopleSoft people, and then expect them when you go live, all of a sudden stop doing PeopleSoft, start doing Fusion or Workday or whatever it is. That's not a good look. Make sure that you have an intentional plan for how you're going to move from being an on-prem company to being an on-prem organization to being cloud-based. Okay, so I'd like to, for the last few minutes here, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this graph. I'm going to move over to one where I can draw on it a little bit here. Okay, so I love quadrants, charts, graphics. So here you've got you've got on the x-axis a continuum from this is really looking at how the quality of the feature set of your application, from outdated, deprecated, legacy, through basic functionality, on to best practices. On the y-axis, we really have two spectrums. We're going from delivered to custom, and we're going from general to unique. As you go up, we're more custom, more unique. So your existing PeopleSoft system, if you're on PeopleSoft, what does that look like? Well, first off, you've got a lot of basic functionality here that comes with the system, just stuff that everyone needs to do. It's hard to differentiate, like payroll. It's hard to do that better or worse. Everyone rethinks their general ledger every time you do a new implementation, but really the bottom line is your general ledger is a general ledger. And so you're going to have all these features that just every ERP has to provide. And you've already got those in PeopleSoft. You maybe have there are places where PeopleSoft is still really providing some best practices, where it's doing some things better than anyone else. On the student side, Campus Solutions, it's really hard to get off of it right now because there just aren't any systems yet that have the full featured flexibility of that. So you've got all these best practices that are coming in here. But then you also have this, I should have switched to something else before I did that, but PeopleSoft has got this pile of outdated, deprecated legacy stuff. It was built into the system long ago, and you can't take it out because someone's probably using it somewhere. Some client is using it. You get into the objects, and you see all these objects that are for the Netherlands, or for all these different pieces that don't apply to you. Maybe nobody uses them anymore, but it costs too much to scoop them out, and it might impact somebody, so it's still there. So you've got all this weight, and so there's still plenty of that stuff, and it's one of the drivers for wanting to move to SaaS is, well, let's get rid of all that junk. This is an old system. You start to say, well, maybe the whole thing is old. Maybe that deprecated stuff is the basic functionality is kind of old too. But it's also a platform that you use for your own solutions that you build out in or on top of PeopleSoft. So you're going to have some stuff that it's not necessarily it's a bad idea or a good idea, but you got to have it because it's specific to your industry, to your locality, to your constituents. So you build out stuff on top of this. For example, in Oklahoma, the all state institutions, when you hire someone, they have to sign a loyalty oath to the state of Oklahoma. Well, that's a separate document that isn't provided by PeopleSoft, so it's custom. It's up here on the custom end, but you got to have it. So you build it, and if you automate it and you put it inside of PeopleSoft, okay, it's up here somewhere. Whether you did that with a custom page or whatever, it's neutral. You need to do it, but it's custom. You also have a whole lot of stuff where you say, okay, we built some custom stuff in PeopleSoft, but we did it because we've always built stuff in PeopleSoft, or maybe it was ill-conceived. We never should have done it. We modified delivered objects, so it's poorly executed. We weren't looking forward to the future, so it was a little bit myopic. Maybe it was somebody's pet political project. Maybe somebody just kind of forced it to happen. Maybe it was a hobby horse that somebody really wanted to ride. It was extra. Someone was overambitious and built this stuff. It's bloated. It takes much more work to maintain and carry forward than the value it provides. So you look at this stuff. This also is a good reason to move, right? Let's get rid of that junk. Now, the other thing to consider, though, and that's easy to forget, is that you actually built some things on the PeopleSoft platform that are good ideas. They're unique. It's where you are being innovative, where you're being competitive and strategic, where you're optimizing things, where things are working much better than they would be if you hadn't built it. It is automating stuff that you do better than anybody else. And you've built that on this platform because it makes sense to build there, because it's close to the data and it's a fast way to build out innovations. So consider that when you go to SaaS, you're basically going to cut out everything outside of this box. So SaaS says, yeah, okay, we're getting rid of this deprecated stuff, and we're getting rid of the old stuff that we wanted to get rid of, but we're also getting rid of some neutral stuff that is specific that we lean on, and we might be cutting off our innovation, the stuff that we actually did right and that we did ourselves. So we end up saying, all right, that all goes away. The fact that the SaaS provides a more updated way to do the basic functionality and the best practices does not mean that it will automatically replace your innovation or your specific to locality or industry functionality. You've got to look at that and see, well, what are we going to do? Are we going to rehost this? Is there some of this SaaS that actually is, that does provide up out of this box? If so, is it going to do the same? Is it going to do things with the same effectiveness that we're used to? And then you have to bear in mind as well that that every system, including a SaaS system, things age. All these things which seem like best practices now, they're going to become standard, and then standard stuff is going to be deprecated. SaaS platforms are hard to change and update, just like on-prem systems are, even more so, because if you yank out a feature of a SaaS product, it just all of a sudden appears and is yanked out in the next release. And it's harder to get your users off of it. So SaaS platforms look beautiful and new and sexy to begin with, but they get old too, and they're going to continue to get old. And if you are a Salesforce user, it hasn't changed much, and it's really easy for stuff to seem like it's old and outdated because it's getting older and outdated all the time. So this is not to say don't move to SaaS. It's saying move with your eyes wide open and realize that the scope of the project shouldn't just be to get on the new platform. You got to figure out what you're going to do with your innovations and with your specific functionality. What's the new home going to be? Does it have a home in the SaaS, or does it have to live in extension spaces outside of the SaaS? SaaS doesn't allow bolt-ons as readily as PeopleSoft does. That's one of the great advantages of PeopleSoft is it's a great platform to bolt onto. So you need to be thinking about how you're going to extend your SaaS solution as necessary. Okay, I'm going to switch back to our PowerPoint here and hit the big conclusion slide. There are more slides after this, but this might be the last one we get to. When should you move? And again, I like charts. So here are my axes. I've got risk ascending on this side. So risk is bad. You want minimized risk, and time flows like a river to the sea from the left to the right. So I think that the when you should move curve looks like a smile. I think that it's possible to move too soon. And this is, and I can't tell you, well, August 2024 is here on the smile or over here, because it's different for every organization. You have to answer these questions, but consider that it's too soon to move if the platform you want to move to is immature, if it can't manage the functionality or an appreciable percentage of the functionality your old system does, if there's a skilled resource shortage on that new platform, if you can't find people who know how to use it, if you're moving out of a herd mentality, you should try to upgrade your mentality before you move. If you're moving because everyone else is, turns out that's not a great reason. You need better reasons and better way to look at your new platform. If you have to jettison innovation in order to move, it's too soon. If you're paying a bleeding edge premium, you're going onto a new sexy platform that they're charging a lot for because it's so glitzy and glamoury, that's too soon. It's not a good reason to move, and you're paying too much for it. If you don't have a path off the new platform, it's too soon. Now, it's easy to look at it and say, well, everyone's moving to Workday. It can't be a bad idea. Well, think through this and make sure. Find out, well, how much does it cost to move a terabyte of data off of Workday? And how fast can I get it out? Because if it turns out that you can't get your data out of there within a reasonable upgrade window, if it takes 3 weeks to get your live data out, how are you going to do that? How are you ever going to get off and go to the next thing? Make sure that there's a path off and what that looks like before you commit to that platform. Because if you ask, well, how much is it going to cost then next year? It doesn't matter because you're going to have to pay it, whatever it is. Okay, you can also be too late though. You can be too late to get off of your on-prem system if your current system becomes stagnant. So it's no longer being invested in, it's no longer getting any new features or new functionality. That's too late. If you get to where you have a skilled resource shortage on your old system, that's too late. If you have a dinosaur mentality set in where you just assume, well, it just is what it is, and we're just going to support it until it dies, that is bad for the culture of innovation. You don't want your culture of innovation to die because your platform won't support innovation. If you have escalating costs because the provider knows if you haven't moved yet, then you're going to pay higher and higher dollar to stay on that platform. And if you get to the point where there's no longer a beaten path off the old platform, nobody knows how to move you from PeopleSoft 5.1 over to Oracle Fusion Cloud anymore because no one's there. If there's no path off the old platform, that's you've been there too long. There is a just right. And what just right looks like is platform parity. You don't want to move when the new platform is a million times better than your old platform. You want to move when they're about the same. Because if you're waiting, if the new platform is a million times better, you've waited too long already. You want to have a trained and invested workforce that's ready for that new system. You want to be using it with an architect mentality. You're not seeing it as this is going to solve all our problems. You're seeing it as this is the platform, the bones that we're going to build new things on for the next 20 years. You want to have a plan for uninterrupted innovation. You want to know, how am I going to keep innovating all the way up to when that project starts and through that project, and not even have it stop with the exhaustion that sets in when you go live. You want to make sure that you're getting a commodity discount. You're paying the lower dollars that the vendor is willing to offer, because the initial rush is slowing down and they need to entice people onto the product. You want to have a beaten path onto the new platform, and you want to have a viable path off. You don't want to be the cutting edge that everyone's trying to figure out how to get onto that platform, and you don't want to be you don't want to rush in without knowing how you can move on so that all your eggs are in one basket. So I hope that is helpful to you. If you would like to look at our deck and look at some of the at a case study, the main point of the case study is from Northwell Health that SaaS implementations are involved and they take a long time and a lot of planning and a lot of thinking. So, this was a 3-year project from 2018 to 2021. It included, look at one thing to pay a whole lot of attention to is how many integrations are you dealing with? Because that's one of the major moves. It's also a reason to think about rehosting PeopleSoft onto OCI first, because by doing so, and this is a sneak peek of chapter 3, you're going to handle those integrations and get them cloud ready. And that will actually keep, whoop, I did something wrong there. I guess that means we're done. That means that that it's going to shorten your implementation, because if you've already worked through and cloud prepared your integrations during your OCI rehosting, you'll be that much ready when it's time to go to SaaS. Be aware of what the impact is going to be on your manager self-service and employee self-service and end user facing processes. You have to think about it from their process forward. And again, be very aware of all of the processes. Think from a process level of how your process flows are going to work. The fact that there is a way to do a process in the new system doesn't mean that it's a good replacement for your current process. If the new hire process takes 5 times as much time to get through as your tuned up, customized PeopleSoft process, what are you going to do about that? Are you just going to hire 5 times as many hiring managers and HR staff? Or are you going to bring over some automation? So be thinking about this. Go with eyes wide open. Consider PeopleSoft as a tool. GTE Forms from PeopleSoft as a tool to accomplish that. We have many other tools that we can bring to bear to help. That includes GTE Forms. It includes our IDA digital assistant platform. We can help you to get ready for your move to SaaS. And in the meantime, we can make your current system rock and roll and accomplish what you need, and try to keep that culture of innovation, both grow it and help take it forward to your new platform when it's time to go. And I will wrap it up there. Scott, you want to do any closing housekeeping?
Great question. Any other questions in the queue right now? As I mentioned at the beginning, we will be sending out links to the recording of this demo. There's also a variety of other webinars that are recorded on our YouTube channel. So if you want to go ahead and check those out, we will be hosting the third and final episode of this series next month. You can find that on our events page on our website. Feel free to go out there and register if you haven't already. And I think that's it.
Very good. Thank you, everyone, for being here.